Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 358 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our third book is called From Letters to Leaders, Leveraging Your Fraternity or Sorority Experience to Land Your Dream Job. So go and pick up that book today on Amazon. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, one of my favorite books is called The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman. It was and still is so ahead of its time, and it really showed me as a young entrepreneur how I can leverage the talent of employees who live all over the world in order to build a massive business. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about this phenomenon with our next guest. His name is Chris Jankulovski, author of Near Death Lessons. He is the founder and CEO of Remote Staff, which is a recruiting company specializing in remote working placements. Remarkably, he was able to build and grow this thriving business while he was battling cancer, failing kidneys, and several brain operations. Throughout these challenges and much more, Chris was able to find a way to transform his life from one of fear, struggle, and self-doubt into one of empowerment, success, health, and happiness. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks, Michael, for having me on, Matt. I appreciate being here.
Of course. You've got such an incredible story of just perseverance and resilience. All of these things are so critical to talk about with college students. That's kind of that one missing piece is, you're going to get knocked down in life. And I know you've been knocked down more than most. But, at some point you're going to get knocked down in life. And the question is, are you going to get back up? I mean, that is really the question.
Yeah. And it's fascinating when you're younger. I mean, sometimes, we don't normally experience these knockouts in our lives, or when things go wrong, or the price we have to pay sometimes to really achieve something. We underestimate that. Oh, you mean I have to commit to something for 20 years. Oh, you mean I'm going to fail for like the first 5 years? I mean, that's mind-blowing sometimes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I wanted to talk a little bit about your youth because you had some interesting things that were going on. When you were 16 years old, you started developing several angiomas, which are these benign growths made of blood or lymphatic vessels in your eyes. So, what did the doctors tell you when you were young, maybe between 16 and 19, in terms of the prognosis of this condition?
Yeah, look, it's fascinating because at 19, when I had this tumors pop up in my eye, what was fascinating was no one knew why a 16-year-old would be having these angiomas that normally occur for people in their 70s and 80s and beyond. And so my doctor was treating me with laser surgery because if he didn't, I would literally be going blind in my right eye. And so my father would drive me all the time to this clinic. I get the laser surgery. And then after a year or two of doing this, the doctor's like, man, we're going to understand why this is happening, because even while I'm lasering your eyes, more are popping up. Like, what's going on here? And so they had me do, back then in the early 90s or late 80s, they had me do a genetic blood test and to understand what might be causing this reason from a hereditary point of view. And they found out. I then went to some special doctor's clinic to get this diagnosis, and I was 19 by this stage. So we've been at it for quite a while, 3 years already of laser surgeries and lots of eye appointments. This is already ruining my life at 16 because the eye was the eyelid muscle down the bottom had collapsed from all the thumb pushing down, and I'm squeezing up because of the laser going in my eye. And this gave me personal anxiety, self-esteem issues because I felt like a freak. I'm like, I can't look people in the eye. And if that wasn't bad enough as it is, when I went to this clinic to get the diagnosis, I'm 19, the guy goes, mate, we've got good news. We found the reason for your angiomas in the eye. Unfortunately, we also got some bad news. I go, all right, hit me with the bad news. Well, they're kind of combined. Right, all right. He goes, well, you have a condition called von Hippel-Lindau syndrome. We don't know much about it. We do know that you're going to get cysts and tumors, some cancerous, in your organs, all your major organs. And the life expectancy at the moment is 30, so you're probably going to have a short life. And yeah, I haven't heard this condition before, and I want to wish you all the best.
Wow. I mean, what was your reaction? I mean, you're like a teenager at this point.
But what do you do at age 19 being diagnosed that blow that you're going to be dead by 30? I mean,
Right.
what? No support, no flyers, no information, nothing. Just see you later.
Oh
And
my.
I was just like, I cried in my car for 2 weeks. I spoke to my parents and friends, and no, I couldn't relate to this problem with anyone. And so I thought I'd do what any other 19-year-old would do if it's so overwhelming of a problem that you just don't know what to do. You ignore it. So I ignored it. So I just completely ignored it. And I thought if I ignored it deep down, deep, so far that it never even got this. And I pretended like I got that. I never got that diagnosis with myself. And I really put it away. And so that's what I did. So I didn't do the yearly MRI scans, the CAT scans, the blood tests, and all these things that I do now that I was required to do back then. And so I just carried on with my life. But instead, the diagnosis made me question society's ways, made me question what's the point in a lot of things. And I didn't understand, like, I became a wild child. Like, all I cared was just about having a laugh and having a good time. But I don't know why, somewhere around 24, 25, it really caught up on me that it was really important in my life to still have a purpose and a meaning. And I didn't understand that. I thought, like, I'm going to have a short existence. Why do I care so much about having some kind of a purpose and a meaning? I mean, why am I craving? Why am I craving this? Why is this still important for me? So that was one of the mysteries for me. But that was also the time when I became an entrepreneur and decided, well, it's time for me to take control of my own career. And even if it is limited, let me see if I can make my life matter and count in some way. Wouldn't it be nice if I'm not forgotten, that I wasn't here and never even existed? And these are the things that I had to battle with when I was young.
I mean, this is incredible. You also had an accidental overdose in the amount of morphine during one of the eye operations, and you even flatlined. I mean, can you
Yeah.
tell our audience, because I've never been in this situation, what is it like to nearly experience death?
Wow. So the first time it happened was at 7 when an appendix burst. And then the second time was when I nearly drowned at 21, where I full on inhaled oxygen and got very calm and just saw my life flash before me. But that was the third one, when I had the eye operation and I woke up in the operation. Imagine waking up in an operation and an eye operation. I felt the needle sliding on my eye. My jaw was a clamp. I'm in this clamped position all over. I hear the radio, the doctor's talking, and I'm just going, oh, I can't talk much. And I was just losing it. And so they overdosed me in morphine or whatever the hell they did. And when I woke up in the ICU ward, yeah, I was there, and I was laying upright, and I had the thing on my finger, and I heard the machine go flatline. And while I can't turn my head, by the way, for some reason, I had no control of my body anymore, but I was still able to move my eyes. And I looked over to my left and I could see the machine flatline. I looked down slightly and I saw the thing still on my finger. And then everything went white. But then I'm still present. I'm present. But I don't hear anything. There's nothing. And I'm not going, hey, I'm not going anywhere. It's my sister's wedding soon. And then I snapped back into consciousness, and all these doctors were about to resuscitate me and breathe. And I'm like, all right, I'm here, relax. So that was my first.
I mean, you know, I'm a cat lover. They say cats have 9 lives. You've had 8 second chances at life. And easily at any of these points, you could have easily just given up and just said, you know what, maybe life, you know, isn't meant for me. You know, who knows? You know, so how did you shift your focus from what many people would look at as like a victim mentality? How did you shift and say, I'm not going to deal with any of this?
You know, the universe is throwing me a lot of, challenges my way. And the first 13 years of my life, between 19 and age 32, I literally didn't realize, and this is one of the tips I can tell anyone. If you have a serious life problem, do not run away from the life problem. Take it on. Because when I ran away from my diagnosis, I didn't realize that I was running away from everything else in my life. I was often confused and doubtful. You know what? We are creatures of God, you could say. You know what? We've got so much biological knowledge in us. There's so much, we're like an antenna, like there's so much wider intelligence that we could access. We shouldn't be confused in our lives. We should have certainty and clarity, because we need to devote a limited amount of time and energy towards striving to make our lives matter and count and contribute in some way. And so when you're running away from one of life's problems, you're literally running away from everything. And so for me, I didn't realize I was living a victim mentality, and that's what I call a victim mentality, is when you're not taking on life's problems, where you're reacting always to life circumstances as if, oh no, another tumor, oh no, another, whatever it is. Recognize that that's a victim response. And a brain tumor at 32 that happened that almost killed me because I ignored my condition for 13 years. When I got the diagnosis, because I had a headache for 2 weeks. I didn't know, Michael, why I was getting a headache. I didn't know. How do you find out? How do you find out when someone's getting a headache? How do you know what's the reason for the headache? I didn't know. I mean, and so when I went to the clinic and they said, Chris, you've got a brain tumor, and today's Tuesday, you have to have it operated immediately on Thursday, or otherwise you're going to die any minute. You're lucky you're not dead right now. If you go to the toilet and exert yourself too much, you could be dead. So when I was going to the toilet, I had to exert my body, and electrical pathways and shocks were going down my system. And I told the doctor that, and she goes, oh my God, if I had availability for you, I'll have you operated tomorrow. But I'm like, whoa, you mean, hang on a minute, let's slow down for a second. You mean I'm having a brain operation? You mean someone's going to enter my private head space, my personal being? That's an invasion of my being. That's nuts. I've never known anyone who's had a bloody brain operation before. And here I am about to have a brain operation. So I just walked out of the clinic. I looked at the sky. I said, God, kill me. I've had enough. I've had enough of living like this disempowered victim of life all the time. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to move my hands and touch my nose and talk and maybe be on a wheelchair after this operation. I don't know any of this, but I don't care. I'm not going to react like a victim anymore. I'm going to choose life. I'm going to take life on, whatever life I have left. And I'm not going to live like that anymore. I'm tired of it. And that was the shifting point.
That's an important lesson, I think, for our student listeners right now, is you just got to go out and grab life, because we just don't know. I mean, we just don't know what's going to happen. I can walk outside, get hit by a bus tomorrow. And then the question is, what impact did I have? Luckily we're publishing books. We have, over 350 podcast episodes. Like, there's stuff out there that people are going to be able to read or consume, and then understand what it is that I'm trying to do with college students and the fraternity and sorority community. But I think, that's a really important lesson that people need to think about. What is that lasting legacy going to be? Because we just never know. And the other thing that's interesting about you is you ended up traveling over to the Philippines, and suddenly you fall in love with that country. You fall in love with the people in the Philippines. Eventually you started this company called Remote Staff, and you employed over 8,000 people now. And we could hire anywhere in the world. Obviously there are countries out there, India. I mean, you could go on and on and on in terms of places where we can hire with an educated workforce. So why is it the Philippines is like where your focus is?
Yeah, no, good question. So after the brain operation, I took a year off because they had my whole body scanned, by the way, after the brain operation. And they found out that I'm riddled with cancer everywhere. So they had my right kidney removed 2 months later. Then they're about to remove 4 cancers from my left kidney. I said, pause. I'm a dead man anyway. Enough. Let me just take a year off. So I took a year off, and I need to heal. I need to just, let me get a chance of living a little bit. And so when I took a year off, a friend of mine said, listen, at the time I had no money to my name. And he said to me, look, I've got an apartment I've rented in the Philippines with a friend of mine, who's from America. You can go there and hang out there for the first 3-4 months till you settle your adventures. Okay, sure. Look, I've never been to the Philippines. I've never heard of the Philippines before. Fine, I'll go. Asia, it's a good starting stop. And so I went to the Philippines like that by random recommendation. And when I'm there, I was like, wow. I went to these tropical islands. People all speak English in Asia because I've been to Asia, like in Thailand and stuff, and where the English isn't so good. But here they're speaking great. The people are lovely. And then, as a struggling entrepreneur back in Australia, always starting something, always failing or not turning out or backing out because it got too hard or something, or I was always starting and stopping things. Because again, I was running away from my diagnosis. I was running away from life. And so when I looked at the Philippines and the people and everything else, I felt that earlier on, back in 2006, I said, wow, when I get back to Australia one day, and wouldn't that be amazing if I could work with them, pay them their local wages in that economy, and utilize them rather than paying the $5,000 or whatever it was that I was paying in Australia for like a graphic designer and everything else. And there are certain roles where I would hire locally, but there are certain roles that are, admin and back office stuff that I'd just rather get resources that I can never afford locally and can never get that. The good news of it, this is the best way to, the analogy is when you utilize offshore talent effectively, it's like you're a plane, you get to fly longer. You're not carrying as much fuel. You're not carrying as much cost to support the resources. A lot of businesses in America, and this is why I'm here in America as well, is because a lot of businesses don't have enough resources. They can't afford the local talent all the time when you're starting businesses. And so even as you grow and exponentially grow, I mean, there's needs for local talent and there's needs for offshore talent in today's modern landscape. And so today it's about utilizing how do you use offshore talent effectively? How do you integrate other cultures, other worldviews, and their perspectives of work into your work culture and dynamics? How do they service your customers and stuff? And so I've been doing this for 15 years and it's been a fascinating journey. But I started the business because when I got back to Australia and the seed was in my mind, I was about to have the second kidney operation for my left kidney. And I tell the doc, man, living on dialysis isn't a good life. How much, what's my chances? Like, after this removal, what's the chances? And he goes, well, look, Chris, you might have 2 more years left with your kidney, the original, or maybe 10. Who knows with your condition? I go, okay, look, I don't know why this happened to me, but I said to him, mate, give me 10 years of life with my original kidney and I'll employ thousands. I felt like I could bargain for my life. And every time you bargain for your life, you're going to do so with something noble in return. And because I had that seed in my head about employing people in the Philippines, I thought, that's it, I can commit to this. I can bargain for my life. And in return, I can employ people. And I didn't know something. Before doing that bargaining, I didn't realize that when one commits over the long term, it eventually becomes your purpose.
Yeah.
If you do anything long enough, that fuels you, that drives you, that gives you a sense of meaning and purpose, that's a contribution for others, it's your purpose right there. Yeah. But you got to stick at it long enough. And if you stick at it long enough, you get to do something that I never got to experience before that moment, which was evolving my skills, improving my responses over time, getting smarter at what I was doing. I just never gave myself a chance before that. I was 32 by this point. Isn't it fascinating?
Yeah, this is really fascinating stuff. I mean, obviously time moves very quickly, but maybe, you're talking to college students. Maybe the college students who are listening right now, they don't have that perspective yet. So why, in your opinion, should the college students who are listening to you right now, why should they go after their dreams instead of just waiting for some time in the future?
Yeah. Look, while you've got the youth, don't get me wrong, I'm a party man. I'm a wild child. Don't get me wrong. Enjoy that while you can. Do not pass up on those. Also, look, socializing is very important in our teens, no question. We're trying to understand our place in the world. We're trying to understand what we want out of life and everything else. Please recognize that what you want out of life, this is how you can confuse yourself. When you're running away from problems, you'll be full of doubts and insecurities. So how do you get rid of doubts and insecurities? Take life on, choose life. Okay. Now in social media days, you're running your focus from all these different things. You got to understand that at the end of the day, even though in your 20s, you feel like you've got unlimited energy, Your energy is limited. You know, you need to sleep, you need to heal your body, you need to regenerate. I know in your 20s you can do it all nighter, but I'm just saying, you need to heal. So energy is limited. Your time is limited on this earth. You ain't going to live forever. Wake up to your mortality. So that's the biggest issue. Now, if you can wake up to your mortality, the biggest thing about social media and our world that we live in today with all this information, everyone telling us what to do, is that it's hard for us to spend important, focused, dedicated time. Because right now we're burning and chasing our tail all the time. We're trying this, we're trying that, but we're not being true to ourselves. So the biggest important thing to do right now is to recognize, why is something important for me? What do I really want? And look at it from a point of, what are my strengths that give me energy? Not just because I'm good at something. Who cares if you're good at something? Who cares if you're good at something and you don't enjoy it? You need to enjoy it. And that skill is the first and foremost thing that needs to serve you. It needs to serve you, because if it can serve you, you can advance your skills. You can have the drive and energy to advance yourself and go further down this line. And then you're going to get so good, then you'll be able to contribute to your society, community, your family. It's a journey, but do not underestimate the power of your desires, and stop running away from any of life's problems, because that's how I became a victim of life circumstances. You are not a victim of life circumstances. You are in control of your life, and you can be in control of your life because you're in control of the two most important things of life, which is your thoughts, your actions. So it doesn't matter what life happens to us. I've had so much thrown at me. I've nearly died 8 times. I've almost gone bankrupt many times. I'm still living in my $16 million dream home. I'm still driving all my fancy toys. I still get to live and pursue my dreams right now. I'm driven now more than ever before. Why? It's a self-empowered attitude. And self-empowerment is simply stating that, you know what? I recognize I'm responsible. Whatever the universe throws at me, God or whatever, it doesn't matter. First thing I recognize is I'm responsible for it, because just embrace it. It's a self-empowering attitude. Just by accepting responsibility, even of things outside of your control. And then 2, focus on things that are in your control. Stop wasting time on things outside of your control. This word called economy, what is this? Forget about it. Focus in your life what you can control, your thoughts and actions. That's it. You know what? That's how I learned how to walk. That's how I learned how to talk after 8 months of rehabilitation, when I thought I'm better off being dead. So Michael, I know I can talk so much about these things, but that's the tips that I can give.
Yeah, those are important lessons. One of the other things that I try to do is I try to set an example for other people. So with this show, with the books, with social media, I'm trying to set the example for college students in terms of making their campus safer, et cetera. And I'm also trying to set an example for my kids. I have 2 kids that are about to go to college over the next year and 2 years. So I'm trying to set the example for them. I'm in a doctorate program. I don't have to do that, but I'm trying to show an example to my kids to say that, hey, we need to be lifelong learners, and who cares what your age is? Just go out and try to tackle whatever mountain you need to tackle. So I'm setting an example. So in your opinion, why is that important? How will our kids, my kids, respond to life in the future?
While we are breathing, while we're here on this earth, clocking in time, you got to recognize that it's a miracle. It's a miracle. And while we've got this incredible biological form to move ourselves around, to talk, communicate, to create, we want to grow. Everything in nature, everything in this life is about growth and rejuvenation. And our souls somehow continue. I've crossed that side. I've crossed the other side many times, more than most. Most people who've gone through what I've gone through are not here to tell you these things, okay? They're dead already. I've survived these things. I'm telling you, our consciousness somehow, why have I crossed in the other side, out of my body experience, and I'm still consciously present in some way, not in this biological form, not in this thought. So anyway, while we're here, our souls crave to express themselves, crave to grow and become as much as we can. You can't tell a tree to stop growing. The tree will grow as much as it can. It's the same with our souls and our lives. We always will strive. And the way we can grow more is by serving, contributing more. It's not about our own needs. Our needs and our fulfillments you know what? They're very important, and self-care is very important, but that can get you to a certain point. To elevate that euphoric, incredible feeling of service and contribution, I feel like we are genetically designed for it, especially as you get older. It somehow poops up even louder and louder. It's like a microphone, it gets louder. Serve, contribute, serve, contribute. You ain't getting out of your life. Make it better for the others. Make your life count. Come on, make a difference for others. As you get older, that microphone gets louder.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, it's interesting looking at what was important to me when I graduated college. I'm sure, the same is true for you. You want to get fancy toys, nice car, big house, a hot spouse. Exactly. You want all of these things, right? Yeah. These toys. But then as you get older, those things just become just so not important. I mean, what really matters is, what is the legacy? How are you making this world a better place? So your perspectives and your priorities are going to change over life. And I think, that's somewhat normal, but I agree with you completely. As I get older, I don't care about the toys anymore. I have enough toys. I don't need any more.
That's right.
I mean, there's only so much you can do, right? I mean, even if you can afford, multiple yachts, let's assume something like that.
Sure.
I mean, how many of them can you really enjoy at one time? You can only be on one at a time, right?
Well, it's a journey of life. And look, while you're young, go on an adventure. What the world is, go see the world. I mean, I've traveled a lot, and it's fascinating when you learn from other cultures, other perspectives, what they value, what they hate, what they're afraid of, what they love, what they enjoy eating, what they hate. The world is a fascinating place. Go beyond your landscape, your environment, expand on that, because the more you can, the more enriching it is for you as a person. And then when you return, you are a whole person.
Yeah. That's a great way to leave it, is really just to explore and go see the world, because there's so much out there for you. For those who are here in the United States that don't venture out, to wonderful places, whether it be Europe or Australia where you're at, I mean, go out and see the world, because you just don't know what you're missing. It really is truly incredible. And, speaking of Australia, we love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I have not yet been to Sydney, Australia. I have not been to Australia. It is one place that my wife and I have already circled. We know that we're going there. So when I get there, where should I go for a great meal?
Look, it's fascinating. The food, really, Australia is this sacred little bubble outside of the rest of the world. It seems like it. And I can tell every time I fly, because I'm flying here so often, I am on that 15-hour flight. Oh my God. Anyway, I'm mastering jet lag. but Sydney is beautiful. And I would recommend Watson's Bay Seafood Place. You're on the water, you're overlooking the harbour, you're eating this incredible food, you're in this pristine environment, and you're just going, wow, does this utopia really exist? So, yeah.
I love it. I'm a big seafood fan, so you better believe I'm going to try out Watson's and make sure that I'll let you know what I think after I get there. So that's really great.
No, you have to call me when you're there. I'll visit you.
I will definitely call you. That sounds great. Now, all right, if our audience, if they want to buy your book, it's called Near-Death Lessons, or maybe they want to connect with you for maybe speaking opportunities on their college campus, where should they go to connect with you?
So I'm working on my new chrisjankulovski.com website, so that's not live yet. But what I could do for your audience right now is I'm happy to post 20 books, hard copies to you. And if the first 20 show interest and want a copy of my book, I'm happy for you to give them to them, please. That's my gift for now.
Fantastic. All right, there you go. All you need to do is let us know that you want a free copy of the book. Chris is volunteering to send you up to 20 copies of the book. So just leave comments on the video, leave comments on social media, and we'll send you Chris's book. It's called Near-Death Lessons. So definitely go and check that out. I mean, just a fascinating story. Your life, I mean, nobody has gone through the stuff that you've gone through, and the fact that, you embrace life and you just go after it and you chase it. I think that's fantastic. I think it's a great lesson for all of our students who are listening. So thank you for sharing your story with us, Chris. All right, to our student listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Chris, make sure that you like it on social media. Make sure that you share it with other college students so they can learn about his book called Near-Death Lessons. And we hope to see you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.